Hello everybody, this is Zaxtorian. In this video everybody, I want to go ahead and show you guys why I feel like Dead by Daylight is now completely broken. And I point my finger directly at the developers of Dead by Daylight for making a big mistake before they launched the game last year. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the old classic Pac-Man game. Alright, so let's go ahead and think about the old Pac-Man game as we know it. Pac-Man was a great old school arcade game. And it had 4 ghosts working to try to kill you as Pac-Man. Your job was to clear the maze full of dots to go on to the next maze. And in each maze you had 4 power pellets in each of the 4 corners of your maze. And those power pellets were kind of like Dead by Daylight's offerings. Imagine a power pellet as the ultra rare offerings in Dead by Daylight. So imagine things like the new iridescent axe head for the Huntress, or a brand new part, or an ebony mori allowing a killer to, kill every survivor without having to hook them to kill them. So in Pac-Man, these 4 power pellets gave the game a perfect balance. By having just 4 of them to be able to use, if you use them too quickly, you would still have way too many dots to eat, and you might not live. But if you strategically use these power pellets only as you needed them, or only as the ghosts were in a perfect alignment or close to you, you could definitely turn the odds in your favor, and it would help you clear the maze. It was a perfect balance. But let's go ahead and imagine now that if we took Pac-Man, and instead of 4 power pellets, 1 in each corner, let's now imagine that we had 20 power pellets down here, another 20 power pellets here, another 20 pellets here. Let's just imagine that we had 80 or 100 power pellets in a maze. Do you think that Pac-Man would have been as good a game if that was to happen? Of course not. It would be completely unbalanced. Every maze would be unbalanced and would steer in the player's favor. So now let's go ahead and turn this back to Dead by Daylight. So what has happened, and the problem with the Dead by Daylight, people, is this right here. Let me go ahead and show you. While I was watching some videos on Dead by Daylight the other day, I happened to come across a video. And it was a player that I had played with in the past, that I had blocked in the past, because he was pretty trolly and toxic as both a killer and a survivor. And I recognized the name. Now the YouTube name wasn't familiar, but when I started watching his videos, I recognized the Steam name immediately. Now I am not trying to call anybody out, especially a smaller YouTuber like this, but I will link one of this guy's problematic videos down below so you can check it out for yourself. But I just want to go to about a week ago from this guy, Pro Bono Man, less than 100 subscribers right now. And this guy, as you can see, has a lot of videos with titles talking about either calling somebody else out, calling another streamer out, such as Monto and Angry Pug and Teletubby Streamer, blah, blah, blah. So this guy, if anybody deserves to be called out, it's this guy right here. Because this guy certainly calls out and name calls plenty of other really good streamers. For example, Monto, I really, really like Monto. And this guy has several videos where, he basically calls him names and calls him bad, etc., etc. But pretty much every one of this guy's videos is pretty freaking toxic. Anyway, we're not here to talk about this particular player or this particular YouTuber. The problem, like I say, is with Dead by Daylight. And it's one of the reasons I've quit playing Dead by Daylight so much in the past month or so. If any of you guys are like me, and maybe you play Survivor in Dead by Daylight, and it seems like almost every game you have against the Huntress, she has an iridescent one-hit down axe head. If you're like me, those games can get very old, very fast, and they're simply not fun. It would be okay if you faced a Huntress and, 1 every 10 games, she had the iridescent axe head add-on. But when you seem to go game after game after game after game after game, and the killer either has an Ebony Mori or a one-shot axe head, the iridescent axe head, or both. Those games can get old and tiresome very, very quickly. And I want to go ahead and show you part of the problem with this particular YouTuber, game player with Dead by Daylight. And the video that I'm talking about is right here. It's called Trolling Survivors. Let's go ahead and show you the problem that I'm talking about. Alright, so this video starts off with him as a Prestige 3 Huntress. Now, I'd like to go ahead and remind you guys, several of this guy's videos show him with Prestige 3 killers of other types of killers, and Prestige 3 survivors as well. Look at how many blood points this guy has. And he is using these blood points to go pick up all the iridescent axe heads first on the Huntress blood web. And then he continues to go through blood web after blood web, picking up these ultra rare axe heads and any Ebony Moris and stuff like that that he finds. And watch what this guy does after he fills out another blood web here. He is waiting for a lobby to fill up. And then he leaves the lobby. So he is trolling survivors by getting survivors in a lobby while he's doing a blood web. And instead of just filling out the blood web and not starting a lobby until he's done with his blood web, he is trolling survivors by quitting and leaving the lobby time after time after time after time, while in the meantime using these tens of millions of blood points to stack up as many ultra rare axe one-shot knockdown heads as he can, and Ebony Moris, etc., etc. So while a lot of people will point and say, well, this guy's a toxic player, yeah, I get that. But this video isn't to call out this particular player of Dead by Daylight. This video is to point my fingers at the developers of Dead by Daylight and say they screwed up. Before they launched Dead by Daylight last June of 2016, somewhere in there they made a decision, hey, let's not worry about keeping player data, player level data, player perks stored on our servers, on our computers. Even though it wouldn't take up much room at all, we're talking about kilobytes of information per player. A 1 or 2 or 6 terabyte hard drive would have been plenty to store thousands of players' information on their end. But instead of doing that, instead of storing all the information on their end, they chose instead to have players keep their own player data information. And now what we see is anytime a player has a computer crash or the game crashes or their internet crashes as they're loading into a certain part of the game, the player will lose all their data off their computer. And now Dead by Daylight has no record, nothing to show what that player had, what levels their characters were, what perks they had got, etc., etc. When with just a few kilobytes of information per player on their own hard drives, they would have been able to restore completely and exactly what each player had when they lost their data. Would have been really, really easy, and it wouldn't have taken up that much hard drive space on their end. This was a big, big mistake on the part of Dead by Daylight. So now, when players are losing their data in the masses as they have been recently, Dead by Daylight really has no choice but to give them blood points to compensate them. But now they're making even a bigger mistake because they're overcompensating every player with tens of millions of blood points more than they need. And now you're getting players like this guy doing exactly what we just saw. This is the reason that we see so many ultra rare offerings and iridescent axe heads and all the other ultra rare, brand new parts for survivors, etc., in almost every game. Dead by Daylight, the developers, I'm pointing my fingers at you. You guys screwed up. And when you screwed up before you launched Dead by Daylight, by making that really novice decision to have players store their own data on their computer, not only that, but it makes it a lot easier for players to go in and try to cheat and try to, change things with their own save files. when that information is kept on the player's own computer. That was a big mistake. That information should have been stored on the hard drives and the servers of Dead by Daylight and not on the player's own computer. So now we have a broken game. Go back and think about the problem in the example I talked about with Pac-Man and 80 power pellets on each maze rather than just 4. Now we have an unbalanced game because of all these extra tens of millions of blood points in compensation the developers are just handing out because players are losing their data. This is a big problem. We have a broken game with Dead by Daylight, and I don't know how to resolve this. I don't know if they should take these, all these extra blood points back, if they should limit a player on how many times they can, fill out a blood web after they have every perk on a killer or a survivor. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that Dead by Daylight is completely broken. And I don't blame this particular player or whatever for this problem. This is a problem that was made and a bad decision made by the developers of Dead by Daylight. So for as much love as I have for the game Dead by Daylight, for as many hours as I have in the game, and I'll probably still continue to play the game, but this is a big game-breaking problem, and I'd like to know what you guys have to say about this. Go watch some of this guy's videos and try to understand my point here of how Dead by Daylight made a bad decision before they launched their game on deciding to have players keep their own level data and perk data on their own computer rather than keeping that on their end. I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been Zaxtorian99. Be sure you comment down below. Be sure you rate my video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.